Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live workshop. I'm Bruce Jones, and this is going to be a workshop on Easy Poetry Book. So I'm going to be talking about how to make your own poetry book. So one of the questions I get asked, it shows up in the 3 questions when you join the group, and is about making poetry books. I had no idea how popular they were, but people ask about them all the time. And we had a good question, and it got me started to go, let me go do it. Let me do some live training on how to make a poetry book, because people really want to know. And this is sort of a prep of me getting ready. I'm going to, I'm also offering a much more detailed course that will come up. This is an overview. We'll kind of go for an hour or so on how to sort of put your poetry book together and cover the big concepts. But I also got me started on making a course on called Easy Poetry Book. That was the, in fact, here, I'll just put that back up. You can see it. There it is. And I think everything is going here. Good. And so I'm going to be offering that. And I actually just put the link over in Facebook for this. Just make sure that's refreshed. For that course, I'm looking for students to join, and it will go much more deep. It's going to be a live class that will hold over Zoom for a limited number of students, and we'll be going through the prep questions, the design of the interior, design of the cover, marketing, ebook, all that kind of stuff, just sort of doing it. So you can see that, you can check it out. And there is a special discount. I'll talk more about this at the end of it, but I just want to highlight it that that offer will be coming at the end, but also just that's sort of special coming up. And I'd love to have you join in, and we can really dive in. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be held over Zoom, and everybody can talk. So this will be kind of fun. So, all right, so let's get started here. And what I'm doing is I've broken this down. Let me get my stuff up here into several different things today. So I'm going to talk about sort of the prep questions on making a poetry book. These are the questions I always ask to kind of get the mindset just right. And if you have questions, you can drop them. This is going over StreamYard. Oh, looks like I don't know anybody. Yeah, actually, Nobby's in the house. We love having Nobby in the house, and he just asked a great question. I don't know. Let me see. Can we get those questions up here? Oh, where is it here? Oh, look at all this. Show. There it is. Can I make a poetry book if I don't know any poetry? Well, you're going to see me make a poetry book today without any poetry. I didn't write any of this poetry. I'll show you where I got it and how I did it. So that's great. So we love having Nobby in the house. He has great questions, and he's a good friend. So, all right. So we're going to talk about prep questions. We're going to talk about creating the book, design, a little bit about design, some about fonts. It's always a question. What fonts do I use? We're going to talk about how to set your files up. What are the parts of the book? A little bit layout, interior, show you some different stuff. Talk about cover layout, and then editing, publishing, and maybe I'll just sort of hint at marketing. I could sit here and talk for a long, long time. That's what the other course is going to be, where we're going to dive deep into all those topics. But this one is sort of an overview, get you sort of used to it. So, all right, so let me get started here. All right, so we're going to talk about a poetry book. Actually, don't have any poetry books right here, but some of the key questions. Oh, let me get my banners up here. And so the key questions that I always start with on any book project, so that we get things going in the right path, because very often I see people, or I work with people, or I consult on a project where they went over here, and if they just asked a question, they would have gone over there. So we want to make sure we have get those questions answered. So I always ask this question first. What kind of book are you making? Is it a paperback book? Is it a hardcover book? Is it an ebook? Sometimes people just want one of those. Sometimes they want all 3, but there are different places that you can go to publish a book depending on the answer to that question. So that's always a key one. Paperback, Amazon. Ebook, Amazon. But hardcover, Amazon doesn't do it. So you want to look at Ingram or Lulu or Blurb, one of those kind of places. So that's a key question that you want to ask. Audiobooks, where do I go for that? Next key question is, where do you think you're going to be selling your book? So most of us are self-publishing people. That's sort of where we are. But a poetry book's a little different animal, because it goes in lots of different places. But if you're just going to be on Amazon, That's important. It tells me what kind of book you're making, and you'll look in a certain direction, KDP. If you want to be in bookstores, so a lot of people want their book in bookstores. You think, I'm making a book, wouldn't it be in bookstores? But a lot of people these days, including myself, don't put our books in bookstores because bookstores don't buy from Amazon. But if you do, that's a different vendor and it's a different way to go. Ingram might be one of the places you want to go. Are you selling them yourself at events? Especially with poetry, you might be doing readings. That's a big part of the marketing. And you might want hard copies that you can take with you to wherever it is you're going. So that's, just make sure I have there. So where do I go for that? Amazon actually has excellent, excellent author prices. So Lulu is pretty good. Blurb's a little bit expensive. Ingram Spark, especially if you want to be in stores, is a little bit more, but also their author prices are really good. The size of your book. So this is Michelle Lamoureux did this great book, and this is, let's just measure here. So I spent a lot of time prepping for this in bookstores. So this is a 5 by 8. This is a pretty common size for a poetry book. Often they're a little bit smaller. You can go 5.5 by 8.5. This is a 6 by 9 book. So here we go, 2 different sizes. So depending on what you want to do is important. This is my Paisley book. This is a square book, right? So that's important. Trying to figure out what size book you're doing sometimes dictates where you're going. And if let's see here, if I can do this, the easy way to figure out what's going on with Amazon is let's just turn off this for a second. And we're going to turn off this for a second. You know who I am. And I'm just going to show you, let's just go to, we're going to just go here, trim sizes. If you want to try to figure out trim sizes for books, you can just Google trim sizes for books, and it shows up. Let's see if that shows up correctly. Amazon KDP trim sizes for books. We'll search on that. Right here, let's see, calculating cover size. Let's open this up. I don't think I had it before, and I just want to make sure, but I just wanted to show you, I think that's the trim size. Here we go. So this is, if you just Google KDP trim sizes for books, you will get, now it's going to prove me wrong. Build your book, paperback book. Oh, I can't find it. I had it a little while ago. Trim sizes. Well, oh, maybe that's it. Here we go. All right, here I go. I got it. That's it. So just Google, what do you Google? You Google Amazon KDP trim sizes and click that one. And you will see right here all the different trim sizes that you have at your access. So 5 by 8, 5 1/4, 5 1/2, 6 by 9. So these are all important. You want to make sure you have your book designed correctly on the right way. So let's go back to here. All right. That was confusing enough. Hope that's not so bad. So that's a key question. What size is your book going to be? Are you going to be black and white or color? So all books on Amazon and most places are, if there's any color inside the book, it's all color. So even having just one color illustration, it's all color. So you want to make sure you're doing a black and white or color. If you have illustrations, when you go to get those illustrations, how are they coming to you? Are they coming in color, coming in black and white? A key question. And then how are you creating your book? I'm going to demonstrate InDesign today, showing you that. But you can do this in Word. You can do it in PowerPoint. There are many other ways. Basically, any program that can create a PDF file can be used to create your book. But depending on what you know, everybody sort of has Word. They probably have PowerPoint. But InDesign does have a little bit of a learning curve. So those are key questions. The kind of book you're going to publish. Where are you selling your book? illustrations, black and white or color. The cover is always color, but the inside is not. The size of your book, and where are you creating it? So just key things. All right, let's dive in, and let's just get rid of this. Okay, let's dive in here. I'm going to bring up InDesign, and we are going to talk a little bit about creating and designing your poetry book. All right, so let me get turn this off. Let's get InDesign up here. Let me get this up on the screen so you can see it. Get this out of the way. All right. So we're going to be looking at your book. Actually, let's see if we can get me so I can still show here about doing this. Whoops, wrong way. This way. There we go. All right, that's what I wanted. I think that's going to do it. All right, so we're going to be making a poetry book called The Poems of China. And Robbie, you asked a great question of where did I get the poems? I'm not a poet. I don't have any poems to use. And actually, oh, that's looking good. And it should be, there we go. I went to the Gutenberg Project. So the Gutenberg Project is a massive database of books in the public domain. Basically anything published from 1923 back. And you can search on all kinds of books. Amazon isn't great on a lot of public domain content for ebooks, but they're pretty much okay with it for print books. But if you're going to use public domain content, then you need to do an annotated version, an illustrated version. You need to take and do something with it. So that's what I've done here. We're not going to build the entire book, but we're going to build a basic book and sort of show you some basic things about it. So parts of a book that you need to think about are the cover. Oh, I think I show it there. So you have the cover of the book. You have a title page, which you can see on the screen. You have behind the title page, you have a disclaimer page. That's where your copyright is and all that kind of stuff. You probably have a table of contents. And then after that, you can go in lots of directions. So you might have an introduction. You might have quotes. You might have a statement about what you do. Somewhere in your book, you probably also have a bio, because you're the author of all these poems. So you want to make sure you have a bio page and any other things that you want to do. But the key elements are the title page, the disclaimer page, the table of contents page, and then all the content, and then all the other stuff gets sort of fitted in around it. So what I've laid out here is a 5.5. I'm going to go and show you exactly how I did this, but this is a 5.5 by 8.5 book. I think it's 5 by 8. Let's look here. Let me just go make sure. Looks like a 5 by 8 book. Yeah, I think so. Okay, it's 5 by 8. And I've just sort of put in basic pieces. So this is going to be the title page. I'll show you how I make that. I have my disclaimer page. I have a table of contents. And I have some poems basically laid out. So what I wanted to show you before we sort of dig in and how to do it is there are some basic things that people always ask about books. And one of them is what are the typefaces that people use? So let's just have a little conversation about type. The size, again, that's going to be personal, and pretty much all these things that I'm going to tell you are personal. There's sort of conventions, but a lot of it is your personal choice and what you want to do, including the size of the book and how you lay it out. I really recommend going to a bookstore or on Amazon and go through the books, look at lots of different designs. You're going to see there's some pretty standard things that go on in terms of layout, but you can customize all around the edges and do all kinds of things. So, but one of the questions that comes up all the time is about typefaces. Let me see if I can zoom in a little on this. So there are a zillion typefaces in the world, and they break down into two basic classes, generally. Serif typefaces, which have all the little things on the end, all these little pieces here, the little parts, and then sans serif typefaces, which don't have any serifs on. So these are little serifs that stick out, and sans serif don't have any. So that's basically the two classes of typeface that are out there. And there's some sort of general faces that people use for books. And these are just some of them. Baskerville, Cambria, Garamond. Garamond is a classic face. Palatino has been around forever. I like Minion Pro. Bembo is a good one. Caslon. This is what these faces look like. That these ones down here, I don't have them on my computer, but I used to use Jansen a ton. It has a beautiful italic, works really well. Gaudi is an old face that works great. A lot of poetry books are a little more formal. They use traditional typefaces, and it's just something you want to sort of look at. But these are some of the basic ones that people use, and they're popular. They also show up on most of the computers, so I think that's kind of important too. Sans serif, you'll see Avenir is sort of like Helvetica. There's Arial, Helvetica. Avenir is sort of a more modern version of that. Gil Sans, Myriad Pro. I'm on a Mac. Those things show up all the time. Futura, Franklin Gothic. So these are just some of the basic typefaces that people use. But basically, you want a face that's easy to read. Let me just show you on a poem here. That's easy to read. And I just actually put a couple of them side by side so you can see the difference. Notice they're very, very close to each other. Palatino, Avenir. So it's really the look that you want and the feel that you want would be sort of what you want to do. All right, so that's sort of a little bit about typeface. The book, the first page of the book is the title page, and it sort of mimics something that you do on the cover. So I'll get to a cover in just a moment, but what I did is I just sort of set up a version of it. I'm adding a little illustration in here just to give it a feel. But Poems of China is the book. I've taken basically a book of Chinese poetry and just stripped out the ones I wanted. So I put this book together. The page behind the title page is your disclaimer page, and it generally just sort of has that, no parts of this book can be reproduced. It has your copyright, whatever else you want to do it. I have some images I've used from Pixabay. I'll show you that in a moment. But that's where all your legal stuff goes. Table of contents can be whatever you want. Right here, how you're going to design that. Just list the poems. So then on the inside, then we're going to sort of do a design. So what I did is I just sort of went around and looked at a lot of different poetry, tried to getting a feel, get inspired by different poems. And there's a lot of, hi, Nancy. Bob and Nancy are in the house. Karen Gross is here. Oh, great. Thank you for being here. Any questions, just put them in. And so people have a lot of different feelings or sort of looks. And even in the same book, people mix and match looks and design of their poems. So many books just do flush left, like I've done here, and I've just put the font at the bottom so you can kind of see it. So this is just pretty basic. Here I mixed a serif face with a sans serif head with my serif face. You never want to put two different fonts of the same class. So I wouldn't put two serif fonts together. Like I wouldn't put on this Garamond, I wouldn't put Baskerville as my head, but I definitely can mix sans serif font with a serif font. I'm sorry, great, with a serif font. That's fine, and that works really well. This is all the same font. These are different fonts. Everything here is flush left. Here I centered a poem, right? So that's fine too. Often what you'll find is, especially with thin poems, there are only a couple words, each line is a couple words. They move the whole thing to the middle. What I do like is to have a fairly wide margin so everything sort of gets into the middle of the page. This is a fairly small book, 5 by 8, but it just gives me lots of room around it. So if you notice on this book, this page, I have no header up here and no footer. Again, that's just your personal, what you want to do. On this page, I've added a header, Poems of China, and at the bottom I added a page number. I'll show you how we do that. We build this book out. You can add illustrations to your book. And these have been picked up at Pixabay, which is a great site for royalty-free. You can add different kinds of illustrations. Just remember, if you're black and white or your color, it means your whole book is going to be that, and it's going to have a difference in cost. But it's wonderful to add some illustrations to your book. This is just a tree. Center it. This poem, like I'm always a big fan of lining everything up at the top, but often people in poetry books put their poems in the middle of the page, top and bottom. Right? So again, it's personal. There's no hard, fast rules on this. You can mix and match and do sort of what you want. Here, I added a color illustration in. I could bleed this off the whole page all the way around, or I can just put it right here with a nice margin around. It's really how you feel about your book, what you're trying to do, that kind of stuff. And then I made a cover. All right. So let me just bring this down a little bit. This is just a simple cover. I took one of my illustrations. I just put Poems of China. I add a little drop shadow on it. took that same graphic and just put it on the page. So just a simple cover. But I'll show you when we get to the cover section where to do it. All right. So that's sort of what we're going to do. And let's dive in, and I'll rebuild this book so you can see it. I just want to make sure. Any questions? All right. So I'm in InDesign. This is a page layout program. It's probably the page layout program for graphic designers. You can pretty much do anything that you want in this program. It's very powerful, and I've been using it for years and years, in an early version for longer than that. So we're just going to create this book. So I'm going to go to New, Document, and up will come a window. All right. And I'm going to just change this to inches so it's a little easier. I actually work in picas, and if you look at the ruler up here, you'll see that it's picas. Pica is just a unit of measure. There's 12 picas per inch that graphic designers use, and it matches in with type. So you're talking the same measurement system. I find it very easy to work with, but only graphic designers know about it. So we'll change this to inches. We're going to call this a 5 by 8. So I'm just going to make it 5 inches wide, 8 inches high. I'm going to just add 10 pages for this. We'll let them be facing so we can kind of see how things line up. And I'm going to start on page 1. There's only going to be one column in this book, but I'm going to make my margins a little bigger. All right, so I'm going to make them 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to make my bottom one an inch and my top one an inch. You can do whatever you want. KDP, I think, wants 1/4 of an inch. I usually recommend 1/2 inch all the way around if you're going to have a margin. It just gives you plenty of room and nothing gets in the way. But for things like poetry books, I'm going to try to push things in a little closer. And yes, Nancy, you may share this however you want. You see there's a notice here from Nancy. So yes, share away. And so let's hit create. And up will come. Let it just do its little thing. It just grinds for a second. And here is my book. So I'm just going to. So here's the rough layout of my book. Each page spread. This is InDesign. Up at the top are the tools. On the left are different windows for different things. This isn't a whole InDesign tutorial, but you can get to each of the pages. You have swatches for colors. You can do different strokes, paragraph commands, all that kind of stuff. So it's all over here on the left. There's windows up here at the top for all kinds of things. It's a very, very powerful program. The second thing I need to do, so here's my basic outline of my book. And I'm going to put a header on this and a page number. So in InDesign, over here on the lower left, I can get at all my pages, but there's a master page. So I'm just going to zoom in here, and I'm just going to go to my type window. Make sure that's shown. It's perfect. And I'm just going to lay in a text block. And I know I'm going to be moving kind of quick on some of this stuff, but that'll be if you go into when we do the more detailed class, if you sign up for that, we'll be going slow. You can ask all the questions, and that should be a lot of fun to kind of really slow down and kind of go through this stuff. I'm just going to insert a current page number. There it is. I'm going to center it. I'm going to pick a font. Let's see here. What are we going to use for today? I think we'll do this in Baskerville. I haven't used Baskerville in a long time. And I'll make it a little bit smaller. And I can move this around. I'm just going to place it down here. So I'm going to put a ruler here. I'm going to place this right here. So what it'll do is anything that's on the master page will show up on every page. So there we go. And those little A's will become numbers. You'll see that in a moment. And up at the top, I'm going to add a header. Homes of China. That's the title. I'm going to center that. I'm going to make it all cap right here. Change the case to uppercase. Make it smaller. And I'm going to expand it a little bit. We'll make this 200 just to kind of do a little style. And we're going to change the font to Baskerville. And so now we've added a header. I'm just going to pull this over here on the second side. This just copies it. So now I have a header at the top and a page number at the bottom, and we're ready to go. Okay, so this will show up on every page, and I'm just going to turn off, because it drives me crazy, the hide frames. So now I can't touch these because they're on the regular pages. On the master page, I can customize it. All right, so there we go. All right, make sure we save it. That's the key. My kids said the best thing I ever taught them was save and save often. So we're going to do home book 2. All right. So now the next thing I need to do is to bring in, we know our margins, we have our basic structure of our book. I'm going to bring in some text and just drop it into this. So these are blocks that you can add text into. These are the margins of the page. So usually what I do is I will go up here to File. I will do Place. I've already prepared my text. So we're just going to go here. We have Chinese poems. And just whirl for a second. And I'm just going to do a couple of them so you can see how it's done. Close that. Here are my poems. And I'm going to select all that copy, and we're just going to make it basketball. That's going to be the official font of my book. And we're going to make these poems 11 points. Okay. Now let me go back and just grab what I already did for the title page. So I'm just going to grab, so I don't have to remake this. I just made up a title and brought in a graphic. And I'll show you how I did that so you can see where that comes from. So let's go to page 1. And I'm just going to drop these on here just so we can go a little faster, and then I'll lay in each poem as we go. So this, and we need to change this to Baskerville, okay, because that's our font for this. Now, if you notice, I have a little graphic here. So where did I get that graphic from? And it's nice to add little things. It might be a picture, it might be a graphic. I got that from Pixabay. So Pixabay, let me bring up, let's see here. Oh, it's right down here. So Pixabay is a site that has stock images. So there's a lot of stock image sites out there. The big guys are Shutterstock, Getty, iStock. But what has also evolved and developed are sites that have free photographs to them. So you want to just make sure these are copyright free and royalty. They all have a copyright, but they're royalty free, and you can use them in commercial projects. Pixabay is one of those sites. I do have a list of them you can get when we dive deeper. So these are just images that you can download and use in your projects. Up at the top here are things that you pay for, the sponsors. So I'm just going to put on here. Let's see, China. What did I call it? I think I called them. China illustrations. And you can select images, photos, vectors, illustrations. Actually, let's go to vector graphics. China. Page. Let's see. I had these up, and already when I was prepping, let's do this. China. All right, here we go. So I just did China, and I selected vector graphics. So I did images. I get this, all kinds of images, and I'll be using those in a moment. And I went to vector graphics, and I get lots of illustrations that you can use. So one of them that I used was this one right here, and you can download it for free. You just sign in, download for free, and you can get this entire graphic and use it in your books. These are free for commercial use. No attribution is required. So you check that, and away you go. There's a whole lot of these sites out there. You always want to check the copyright, make sure that it's available. But it's a great resource. I feel bad for all the graphic designers and illustrators and photographers in the world, but you know, we're all trying to do what we do. So anyways, so that's where I got it from. And now if I come down to here, come back to the book. So I brought the image down. I'm going to go to place, and I'll bring that entire image in. And I think it's right here. And so I just clicked on it, bring it in through the place command. You notice there's all these graphics, and I can just crop out what I don't want. So I can just crop away. I can either go into Illustrator and pull them out individually, or I can just crop, and now I have an illustration, and I can place it wherever I want. These are vector graphics, so I could make it really big or really small, and I don't lose any resolution. So that's where this comes. So I just sort of lay out a page. One of the things I often will do is I will put a center line. So notice in this text box, there's a little handle there. I can pull over a ruler, put it right in the center, make sure everything is lined up. And this is the first page, so I'm probably just going to turn off. I know I'm moving quick on this, but we have a lot to cover. I'm just going to hide the master items on this page so it becomes a title page. All right, page 2. Let me go grab my copyright stuff. In fact, I'm going to grab the copyright and the table of contents from the prep book I made. I'm just going to put them in here so we don't have to waste time on them. We have table of contents. And now we're ready to drop in some text. So I'm just going to bring my text down. And I love this InDesign. Primarily, there's a whole lot of reasons I love it. It's so flexible and easy to use, but also it has this pasteboard area out here on the outside. It becomes very easy to sort of set stuff up. I can open up my text like so. I can take a look at it. I can arrange it, and then when I'm ready, I can put it onto the page. So that's a key thing that I like being able to do. So now I'm just going to take, this is just one long text block with all the poems in it, and I kind of did a little prep work getting ready. But now we're just going to plunk some in. All right. So we're just going to come in here. We know the font's been selected. I'm going to just copy this, or just drag over it, just like you would in a word processing program. I'm going to cut it, and I'm just going to paste it right here in position. Let me go in closer. And generally with a book, I will leave, like, all of this text is one long string. If it's a I'll go chapter by chapter. It will be the length of my string. But something like a poetry book, I'm going to just do each poem as an individual element so that I can move them around and do different things with them. Let's go take a look at what I did before. You'll notice I did this for a head treatment. I did this for a head treatment. I did some centering. I did different fonts. So I think I'm going to just select this. I think I'll make this a little bit bigger. So it's 11 point. I think I'll make it 14 point. And I'm going to make it upper and lower case. It came in, the text was all uppercase. So I'm going to make it what's called title case, where the first letter is in place. All right, so we have one poem in. Let's just keep going here. We'll put another poem in. I'm going to select that. And this is just the process of sort of going through the book. We're going to cut this, cut it. I'm going to take my text tool, which is right here in my toolbar. This is my toolbar. Right here's all the basic tools I'm going to use. And Angela's in the house. Oh, great. Thank you. And is this a Word doc? It started in a Word doc, Nancy. So that's a good question. Let me, let's see here. So let me go. I don't have Word open, but yes, everything was built in Word to begin with. So that's what I do. I get my files sort of built in Word, and then I move over to InDesign. Now we can do it. We could build most of this in Microsoft Word or Google Docs. That would work also. I'll go more deeper into that when I do the course, the live workshop where I'm working. We have time to slow down and go through all those different things. But here I'm using InDesign. But this text all came from a Word file. In fact, let me just open that up so you can see how it looks. I'll let that sort of open while we kind of move forward here. So remember I increased this to 14 point. You can see right here, 14 point. This text is 11 point. So those are my standards that I'm working with. And we want to make sure everything stays the same through the entire book. So change the case, the title case. And I think the in would be a lowercase in the grammar. People can weigh in and tell me if that's right or wrong. I can also change the amount of spacing that's between all of these lines. I find it's a little bit tight, so I can change the leading. Notice how it's increasing. I'm up to 18 point there. That might make them a little easier to read. And let's do the same thing here. 18 point. I can see if I have any other questions, right? It just makes it a little easier to read. Again, it's how you perceive your poems and what you want to do with them and how much space you have. If you have a lot of long poems, you might not want to do that. Do it. All right, so let's just keep going. We're going to do, let's just take this one. We'll just lay in a couple of them here. So I'm going to cut that. And it's really just the process of going through. This is the process I do with every book. If it's a regular text book, a book that has text in it, I'll flow this stuff out over several pages, however many a whole chapter is. But in this case, I'm just doing a poetry book, so it's a little bit different. So now let's increase that leading to 18. And you sort of develop a design as you go along. You don't always know it right away. You see, I'm sort of figuring out the leading as things start to fit. This has a little notice, so I'm going to take that out of there. I'm going to cut that, bring this up. I'm going to come down to the bottom, and I'm going to paste it down here at the bottom. Let's fix my head. Whoops, 14. And, all right, where's my type? Change the case, title case, make that O smaller. InDesign also has style sheets, so you can set all of this stuff up in the style sheet. Let's see here, that's 18, so let's make this 18 also. And this is a little note, it's anonymous, this is who the author is. So I'm just gonna make this at the bottom, I'm gonna make this smaller, and I'm gonna make it all caps. So let's do that. Again, it's sort of what you wanna do. And that just separates it from the poem. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at this. And let's, because I've noticed we're looking at a lot of poetry books, you can mix and match and move stuff around in the same book. It doesn't all have to be the same. So I'm going to center this type. And because I'm centering it, I think the title should be centered, which tells me to come back and center it on the other one. So certain elements, you want to have consistency in the elements. So because I'm centering this type, I don't want to have my heads going different places, but my text can go different places. I can do that. So that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. And so we have the rest of the text. We would just kind of lay this stuff out and just keep moving. All right. So let's put a photograph here. All right. Just something. So I went and, oh, before we move, let's bring this up here. This is the Word file. So Nancy asked about where this text came from. So after I downloaded it from Gutenberg, I did a little bit of formatting with it, but here is the original text in Word. So I try to make this clean. I try to make it anything that's sort of odd. I try to get the spacing consistent. When I first got this file, it looked like this. This is how it looked. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. So it was long with a lot of extra stuff in it. So this is how it looked when I download it. You'll notice these blue dots, those are the spaces, extra spaces. And if I come down here where the poems are, all this extra spacing. So I cleaned all that stuff up, selected my poems, changed the font, and got it all ready to come in. So that's usually what I like to do, is have a good clean file. I'll use Word to do that and bring everything in and then bring it all in InDesign. I know I don't have any sort of strange things. There's no page breaks in here. There are no odd illustrations in here. It's just a clean document. So good question. Great, great question. All right, let's save that. Get rid of this and get rid of that. Okay, so we are back. So one of the other things I did on Pixabay is I downloaded a series of illustrations. So let me just show you those. Just sort of mood images that would fit with this book, right? And I could turn them black and white. I can make them into other things. So just images that I just sort of searched on China and pulled down. Right here, we can pull this up, and where was my Pixabay? Pixabay right here. So I just went through here and just looked for images that I thought fit this book. All right. And the Great Wall. Okay. So those are just different ones. So let's just bring one of those in, and we're going to put it right in here. So in InDesign, that's called placing. So I'm going to go to my file, place, and let's see, my source China. Oh, before I do that, I just want to show you one of the key things you're going to need to do is very often your images will download as 72 dots per inch. So one of the key things to do with InDesign books, whether you're doing an ebook or you're doing a print book, is all of your images need to be 300 dots per inch. So what does that mean? So I'm using a program called Photoshop, another one part of the suite that goes with InDesign. And I'm going to open this image up. And I'm going to use, let's do here, open with, oops, come on. There we go. Photoshop. So whether the images are coming out of your camera, wherever it is you got your images from, if they're coming out of a camera or off a lot of stock sites or from illustrators, very often they're going to be 72 dots per inch. That's the resolution for, make sure this is up. You answered it. All right. You have to be concerned about where page breaks are in a diamond. Yes. So I'll come back. Lindsay, I'll come to that question in 1 second. So this is an image that I downloaded off of Pixabay. And if I come up to image and image size, you'll see right here, hopefully that'll show up. You can see there's the resolution is 72 dots per inch. And this is a huge image. It's almost 60 inches wide by 40 inches high. It's gigantic. But the key here is the 72. KDP and all the other online print-on-demand sites, your images need to be 300 dots per inch. So all I need to do is change this. Remember that's 60 by 40? I'm going to change this to 300. Notice the picture shrunk to now 14 by 9.5. All right. So the resolution, the image is all there. It just shrunk and the resolution went up to 300 dots per inch. I hit OK. It looks exactly the same, but it's smaller and it's now the correct resolution. So that's a key thing if you are bringing illustrations or photographs or anything into your book. They have to be 300 dots per inch. And that requirement is now on the ebook side too. If I try to, because my book is really small and this image is still 14, I may not want to bring the whole thing in. I might even bring it down a little bit more, make it sized more to the page, or crop out what I'm not going to use. In fact, let's do that for this one. We're going to crop this image. I'm just going to focus on the book, and that'll get the file size. Let me show you the file size right now. It's 34 megabytes. That's pretty big. I'm just going to bring this down so it sizes itself a little bit better to, and that should drop. You'll see that drop. 16. It dropped to 16. So it dropped by cutting off stuff I'm not going to use. It's smaller. So let's save this. Save as. And we're going to put that in our photos. Trees right here. And we're going to change that to 300. I like to label them so I can figure out what I have. And all right, that's the three gorges image. Hit OK. Let's close this. And this is working in Photoshop. So that's a standard program that people use for doing this stuff. Now I'm going to bring that image in. So we're going to go to place. And let's see if we can just find it. It's always a challenge to find it. Here it is. And there it is. So I'm just going to size it and drop it right here. So I'm bringing in something that's a little bit small. In fact, I would probably even go and do a little more work and just get it smaller so I have the smallest file size that I could have. But we're just going to put this in here and just be happy with that. All right, pretty cool. All right, so there's the basic book that we have. Would work our way through the interior, putting in images, putting in text, doing our design, formatting it, however we wanted to do, whatever the design was and whatever it called for. So we have our title page, we have our disclaimer, credits, copyright page, we have the table of contents page, and we have our poems. They just kind of run on. Minimum size is 24 pages. I like a book that's, like for coloring books, is 70 or 80 pages. We could do maybe 100 pages, might be a nice size. Doesn't mean you have to have 100 poems. You could mix it with images. You can do blanks. You can do all kinds of stuff. You could enlarge this, spread it on different pages. You can put color. So you're really wide open what you want to do. So, all right. So Nancy's question was, you have to be concerned about where page breaks are in a document. So one of the things that I was just pointing out, and I kind of probably blew right by it, but it happens with, let me just go to, I'll reopen my Word file. So if in a Word file, it's very common to have page breaks in different places that you put in. So you might have had in your document, I'm just going to put a page break right here because you sort of how you organized your file. And you notice when you have a page break, everything below pushes itself to the next page, right? So that's a pretty common thing, all right, in Word. But when those things come into InDesign, these mess things up. Everything gets sort of stopped at that point. So one of the things you do, depending where your copy is, this might be fine for a Word file, but I will come in here. This is part of the cleaning of your document and delete those and take them out. So you can put that stuff in later, but you don't want to have it in a Word file. So you want yours as simple as you can. In fact, let me take, just to show you, I'm going to take this text, how I might lay it out. And there's a lot of different ways of doing this stuff, but let's just sort of take this text that we have right here. This is the text file that I brought in, and I'm going to just go down to the other pages. There are many different ways to do this. I'm just going to take that whole block of text that I brought in, and I'm just going to come in here. And this is how I would do it if I just had a long running block of text like any normal book. So there are little handles here on the side, and I can just click and drag it open, and you notice that it just sort of flows. So I'm going to move this head up to the top. I'm going to move this up, and I can just lay out the entire book page by page by page. And I'm going to come over here to my page pop-up menu and just add some more pages. Right? You notice I can just lay the whole book out. So I was doing it sort of poem by poem. It's really just sort of personal choice how you're going to do it, but I tend to, most books do it this way. On a poetry book, I might do them individually, just so that things aren't affecting each other. And we'll do that here. All right. So then I would come in, and this is kind of like a slinky. I can pull this down, and that side goes up. Notice how it goes up and down. I can push this up. That goes down. I can pull this down. It's like a window shade. All right. I would now come in and format these heads, the text. Everything can be formatted independently, but this is all one block of text. Notice how this is all one. So on a regular book, that's the way you would do it. On a poetry book, I might do it individually, sort of like how I was doing it, trying to make it as easy to show you. Okay, so there we go. That's the book. All right, we've done it. We've laid out the book. Let's talk cover. All right, so we're just going to go through, make sure we have everything. So what I tend to do is I build my covers at the backs of my books. Let me just go to here. I have a last page. All right, I like having everything in the document, and then I pull it out and make a cover out of it. So we come back to this book. You'll notice there's my cover. So I had this image and I had this title. So I'm just going to bring over these elements right here and clump them in to kind of make this a little easier. But I like keeping it all in one place, and then I will pull it out and put it into the final cover file. And when I export my final file for print, I won't take those last pages, but everything is in one place. So let me go grab that picture. So let's find the right picture here. I think it was this one. And I'm just going to shrink this down. And I'm just going to lay this on here. And I'm going to leave a little extra on the outside. You'll see why in a moment. So I'm just roughing in my cover. And I do this on the last page. I do this at the end of the file. That way, everything is in one spot. Not everybody does it this way. There's lots of different ways to do it. It's the way that I do it. And now I'm going to send that file to the back. Oops. And I can move this around. I can size it back and forth. Might want a little more of that tree coming out. This type right here, I put some drop shadow on it right here, just to give it a little emphasis. I'm going to just make that a little less. Oops. Make this 3. And you can change the drop shadows. You can do all kinds of things. But I like putting a little bit of drop shadow, make it pop away from the image. I added a rule around the outside. Where did I come up with that? How did I come up with that? That cover. Where did it come from? So I'll just show you what I did. We have great resources now that we can access to come up with ideas, just trigger an idea, trigger a concept. And we do that. We used to have books that we went to. We used to have magazines, Print and How magazine, and Communication Arts were the magazines that were my resource for where do I get ideas. Now my ideas come from Google. So all I did to kind of do things is I went to Google. Right? Google is a fantastic resource for this, as is Amazon. Both are, but Google, you can get things really quick. And I just typed in here, poetry book covers. Okay, poetry book covers, and then I hit images. And up come all of these covers. These are all covers from poetry books. So you can go to a bookstore, kind of get some inspiration, see what people are doing. They're putting photos on the cover, or they're using, this is just like a black and white one with just an image. You'll see all these different ideas, and you can just use it to kind of get a sense of, okay, what are they doing? How are they doing it? How are they laying out the type? You know, is it little image? Is it big image? This is a great resource to just give you some sense. You're not copying these things, but you're using them as inspiration. You can also do it just by going to Amazon, search on poetry books, and see what they're doing there. Just kind of get a sense. And we'll dig in the if you sign up and take the workshop. We'll dig deeper into cover and where I get all my ideas from. But if you'll notice right here, I said, this one kind of got me going. I said, oh, they took the words and they put a white box around it and they put a picture underneath it. So, oh, that's kind of cool. Let me just bring that up a little bit bigger. So it's just a simple poetry cover, but it said, oh, I can do that. I was trying to get something for this broadcast to make it kind of easy. So I said, all right, that's what I'm going to do. And you notice mine is different. This is the one that they did. It has a line, has the text. So I have different text, different thing, different image. They're using image and color. So I just did basically this very similar kind of thing right here. I just put my words, put a rule around it, and I brought in my little element that I had on the title page. So I'm trying to have some consistency. And your title page is very often a reduced version of your cover. I just squeezed it together, but I couldn't make it exact. Right, so it just close that there. Right, so that's where it came from. Let me just do that. All right. Okay, now I basically have my cover done, and let's just look at any questions. Bobby, great, you inspired me. Great. Let's let's see if I can get that quote in here. Let's come back over here and. Let's just see. Let me just turn this off for a second. Oh, right here. I just want to get the Nobby's comment here. Here we go. All right. I can make a. Oh yeah, let's find the right one. Oh, here it is. You inspired me. Great. Thank you, Nobby. It's fun. You know, it's not that hard. It's just a series of steps that you kind of walk your way through. All right. Let me go back to this one. Woo, look at that. Don't like that. All right. So now let's build that cover for real. Okay, so I have it here. It's in my book. I can work it. That way I have the same fonts. I know what I'm doing. Everything stays the same. In fact, I think I need to change that to Baskerville. Let's go up here, Baskerville. And I'm just going to adjust that a little bit. There we go. Pretty cool. All right, so we're done. I can build my back cover if I wanted to. I might just put color on it. That's it. All right, let me build a quick cover because this is always the thing that gets people tricky. And I'm just going to show you very quickly how to do it. So let's pretend that our book is 100 pages long. So it's just a formula that we use. We take our number of pages, 100, times 0.00237, I think is what it is. I'd have to check that, but I'm just going to use that for the moment. And that number is the pages per inch. It's how thick the spine is. Every book has a spine on it, and you have to figure out that spine width so you can build your cover. But I think it's 0.237. I have my handy dandy calculator here, and I'm going to take 100. I'm going to pretend my book is 100 pages long. 100 times 0.00237, and that equals 0.237. It's almost a quarter of an inch. That's the thickness of my cover. And when we make a cover for a book, we need to make the back cover, spine, front cover, and then some bleed all the way around. It's an 1/8 inch bleed all the way around, and that gives them, when they print the book, enough paper to trim it and clean it and make it a clean thing. So as the formula that I use, I'll just draw it here. 125 plus, this is 5, plus 0.237 inches, plus 5 inches, plus 0.125. So it's the width. And I'll show you this in 1 second here. Plus 5 by 8, plus 0.125. So this is the calculation. That, can you see that? Let me let's bring this up here so that you can see this, because this is always a tricky part and it takes time. And I do this. Nobby's inspiring me too much. Okay, enough there. All right. So this is the calculation. I have 100 pages right there. Oops, right there. 100 pages. This number 0.00237 is my PPI. It's the pages per inch. That's a calculation. I just multiply them, and I have 237 inches. That's the width of the spine. So back cover, spine, front cover, and I figure out my width. There's a little bit of bleed. It's an 1/8 inch bleed. That's 0.125. 5 inches, 0.2375. 5 inches. Back cover, front cover, bleed, spine. Height. And I do this on every book I do, even though I know how to do this and I've done it a million times. I actually write this out every time. So let me just add it up. You'll see where this comes in a moment. 5 plus 5 plus, and I'll cover this in much more detail for people who join me. But let me just do it again. 0.125 plus 5 plus 0.237 plus 5 plus 0.125 equals 10,487 and 8.25. So my book cover is going to be 10.487 wide and 8.25. Right? So let's just go make a quick book cover. Ooh, look at that. I haven't figured all this out yet. This is my StreamYard. It's a great program. All right, so we're going to make a cover very quickly. We're going to go to File, New Document. And when you make covers, when you make books that are going to go to KDP or Ingram or everywhere, you make the interior of the book and you make the cover of the book. There are 2 files. Interior, with all the pages, and the cover is a separate file, set up in spreads. So we're going to set this for inches. It's 10.487. That's how wide it is. My height is 8.25. It's only 1 page. And this is my insider super secret trick to make this all work easier. I set the book up as 2 columns. This gutter width, you'll see in a moment, is the width of the spine, 0.237. It makes it so much easier if you're using InDesign to do this. My margins, there's an 1/8 inch bleed all the way around the outside, 0.125. And now my book is ready to be set up. Width 10.58487. The height, this is making the cover. We don't need facing pages because it's just one page. It's 2 columns. You'll see in a moment. And we change this gutter back. I don't know why it changed. 0.237. 0.237. Stay there. There we go. And the margin on the outside. I hit create. And here is my cover. All right. This is the cover file. And you'll notice when I did that thing, 2 columns. Left column, right column, back page, front page. And this is the spine going down the middle. So now all I need to do is I come over here, I grab this, select all this. I'm going to copy it, come back over to my cover file. I'm going to paste it, paste right there, move it right here. All right. Notice that we planned it so that this is, oops. All right, so it's right there. All right, so now the only thing we need to do is just expand this photo off the edge to cover that bleed. You want that photo to run right off the edge. And I've discovered that you actually do have to run it off the edge for it to work right. And you might have to size it up a little bit just to get it right, like so. All right, let's take this off. Okay. You need at least 100, I think it's 131 pages if you're using the cover creator. It's at least 100 to put words in the spine. Often you don't have any words in the spine. For the back, for this one, I'm just going to add a color. Instead of putting that photo on it, I'm just going to add a color just because we're going to do this quickly. And I'm going to go to swatches. And actually what I think I'll do, I'll use my eyedropper tool. And I'm going to take some of this color right here. Oops. And put it on the back. I don't like that color. Let's pick a different color. Let's go to this color. There we go. All right, for the moment. And I think what I might do is just put a spine color on this, like so. Any questions? Nope. And we'll make that just a darker color. And normally, if I had more time, I would add some text here, put a little bio. I might have a picture of me as the author of these Chinese poems, but I'm not. But you can put a bio on here. So just like, I don't know if you can see this, like this, something like this. Let's see if this shows up. We have a bio picture. You want to leave this lower right corner is where your ISBN number is going to go. Right? We haven't even talked about that, but that's the tracking number that all print books get. Some kind of stuff up here. Put a sample poems or your inspiration or quotes or whatever you're going to do, and that builds out your cover. Let's get this right in there. Let's make sure this is right on there. Right, like so. Oops. Looks like we need to expand this photo. There we go. All right, I get this right in here. It just helps by having that gutter in the middle there. Got it. Okay. And we're going to do it like that. All right, so there's our cover. We would put text, is it a picture, made a little bio, your web address, that kind of thing would go on the lower corner here, space left for your ISBN number, and you are ready to go. That is a cover file that you would use for your book. And then we just save it. Save as cover. Okay. Let me get all my stuff up here. Too many windows going. Too many windows. All right. So we have talked about creating and designing our poetry book. We talked about formatting and laying it out in your book. How are you going to do that? We just did cover design, so we kind of went through a little of that. And again, we're kind of trying to keep this within a little hour, a little bit more here, but just an overview of what it is. key things you're going to do is super key is have someone edit. So what I like to do is sort of lay out the whole book and get it all sort of laid as where I want it. And then I like having a printed proof for that. So I like to take my file, make a PDF of it, take it to Staples, and let me just grab it here and get a proof copy made. I think this is a super important step. Not everybody does this step, but before I made this book, I went and took the rough file, the basically laid out file with the text, with the photos, everything kind of roughly in place where I wanted it before I even sent it to getting edited. And I had it printed out. I just used the self-service copier, have a spine put on it, plastic cover. You can do whatever you want with that. And it gives you something you can touch and feel and look at and go through it, especially with a poetry book, because there's a lot of design more than just the pages. There's the poems going up or down and the images, where do they fall? There's a nice rhythm to the book, all that kind of stuff. You can do that by printing this out. And you'll see so many things that you want to change and adjust because you've done that. So I really recommend this stage of doing I call it a pre-proof copy, where you can touch it physically, hold it, and you can also use it to start your marketing with. You go, hey, the book's coming, almost here, that kind of thing. Find an editor. One of the biggest comments you'll see on reviews done on Amazon is that the person didn't get their book edited. So there are editors. You can find them on Fiverr. You might be a reporter that you know, an English teacher you know, a professor you know, a professional editor. Have somebody, at least if you can't hire an editor, and they're not that expensive, a proofreader, somebody to go through the book and just catch things, a different set of eyes. You can have your friends do it and your family do it, but they're not going to be as probably honest about it or catch things, so they're not really looking for it. I think it's an incredibly important thing to do. Just give it to someone else and say, mark it up, tell me what's wrong with it, and so I can fix it. That may go on for a couple rounds. The same thing with the cover. You know, does it going to feel right? Does it look right? You're going to print it out. You know, does it work? In fact, I don't know if this one changed. I didn't change. I did change the back. All right. So this is a proof copy of this book, and I realized I needed to put some text in here. Just right. So that was one of the changes that I went from this book, was to add text in here. I need a little bit more. I only saw that because I made this copy. So that's editing and proofing. And then you're all done. You wrap it up. You make two files. You make a PDF, a high-res PDF of the inside, and a high-res PDF of the cover. And those get loaded up to KDP Amazon. So that's where you're going to go. That's where most of my books go. But wherever you're going to go, you're going to load these two files up, interior and the cover. You're going to come up with some metadata. So that's the data you're going to be using. That's the categories, description of the book, the author bio of the book, the keywords that go with the book, all that stuff, all that gets loaded up. The price of the book, put that in. All that gets loaded up into Amazon. At some point in this, you're going to set up your Amazon account or your Ingram account or your Blurb account, wherever you're going to go. You're going to make a decision about your ISBNs, using the free ones, using the paid ones. Remember those questions that we asked way at the beginning? Am I putting this in bookstores? Am I making a hard copy? Those come back now. If you're going to go into stores, you're going to have to purchase an ISBN, and you're going to work with Ingram. Basically the same file that you use in KDP, but you have another place to do it. Let me just look, see if I have any questions here. We're getting sort of near the end. Oops. Nope, good. And that's it. So then you upload it, hit publish, and away you go, and you're onto your marketing and launching of your book. So I'm not going to go I don't want to go too far into that, but let me just talk just a quick overview of the marketing of your book. People always ask about this. That's a whole other webinar and a whole other session. But I just want to say, here are some of the things that you might do as you prepare for your book. A media kit, pictures of the book, cover shots, you with the book, hey, it's my book, that kind of thing. Connecting with local media in your town. Newspapers love having a book. You're sort of launching your book to the world. You look for all the places you can do it. Updating your bios. your LinkedIn bio, your Facebook bio. You're now a published author. Update your bios and put that stuff out there. You might be giving your book away to clients. Maybe your book, you want to get a reading someplace. You walk into a store where you could do a reading, or a coffee house or another bookstore, and give away a copy of the book. Say, hey, I'll do a reading. Here's that. Announce and launch your book on social media. So you do the media kit. So you have graphics. Now you go to all your social media platforms that hopefully you've been talking to and publishing and posting that you have a book coming. Maybe showing the rough layouts of the book. Maybe showing the cover of the book. All that kind of stuff, building some anticipation, but now it's launch day, now push it out. You're going to blog about your book. You're going to post about your book. You're going to go, you have an email list. You're going to send out an email to all those people. This is just sort of covering very quick. I actually cover a lot of this in my my checklist book here, my self-publishing checklist book, and my big publishing secrets book. I might create a PDF book that you can send out to people to get reviews, do kind of things. Update all your bios, even offline ones. Maybe you work at a company, you have a bio page on your company's website. Great place to do stuff. And put a short bio line and a link on the bottom of your email signature. So just some of the things that you can do as you sort of push your book out to the world. All right. So that kind of wraps up. If there's any questions, I'm just looking here on comments, questions. Let's see here. Don't have any other comments. All right, so let's come down here. So I do want to just mention, I mentioned at the beginning of this, is that I have in fact, let me get this, put this down here. Where is my thing here? Let's make this. I have a workshop, a much deeper workshop coming up that people can dive in. Let me go to, let's see here if I can get this to work. All right. Okay, so here we go. So I am putting together a live online workshop where we're going to dive deep. I'm looking for a number of students who want to come into the Easy Poetry Book Workshop, and we will dive into all of the topics, but in much more detail and much slower. And it'll be a live workshop where you can ask questions. So we're building the same book, going through each of the steps, but we're going to do it at a slower pace. We're going to take each part, and everybody can answer and ask questions. So I have, I think I just put the link over in Facebook. It's right here. And where did I put it? I think it's in one of these comments. In fact, let me put it again so that you can see it. Let's put that link right in here, okay? But this is what it'll be, and we're going to cover all these different topics. So the prep questions, the interior, the cover. It'll be in the next week or so once people have signed up, and then we will dive in. You'll get a link. You'll email out, and it'll be a Zoom call. We use Zoom, which is a great service to use. You can watch this little video here of me. I don't know why it's so big, but it is. And you can be part of the Easy Poetry Book training and really dive in, and should be fun. You'll get access to any templates that I make, like the templates today. You'll get access to my Publishing Secrets book. You'll get access to the checklist and anything else that I do. And there is a special coupon, which is the Easy Poetry 50 coupon that you can use to get this half off, because this is a beta course and will be used and relying on everybody to help me sort of build this course out, but gets lots of live feedback. So once you enroll, you'll enroll, and then you'll get this message. Thank you for enrolling. Watch for the email, and you'll get that, and then we'll be off to the races. Probably do that in the next week or so, while I pull all the pieces together. So, so let's just remove this. Okay. All right. So that's Easy Poetry 50 is the coupon. Make sure you use that if you want to partake in that live workshop. So I'm looking for like 7 to 10 students, something like that. Something to make it good and get a good conversation and dialogue going, and we can learn about how to make a book. And I'll go into details of all this stuff, but slower, more careful, and you can ask all the questions. So, all right. hope that was good. I hope that I'd love to hear any comments you had on the broadcast. I know I kind of moved quickly through a lot of different elements, but I'm looking forward to going slower and building out the easy poetry book course. And we'll see you next time. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.